a vast Roman battlefield, the earth trembling under the thunderous march of thousands of legionaries. Shields locked tight in an unbreakable wall, javelins glinting like deadly spears of lightning, ready to rain down on the enemy. The air is thick with the roar of war cries, the clash of metal, and the dust kicked up by iron-shod boots. But wait, something's glaringly absent. No clouds of arrows darkening the sky, no ranks of bowmen unleashing a storm of feathered death from afar. How could the most unstoppable war machine in the ancient world, the Roman legions, fight without one of humanity's oldest and deadliest weapons? Did the Romans really shun archers entirely? Or is there a deeper story here, one of adaptation, cultural pride, and brutal necessity? Strap in, history hunters, because we're about to uncover the truth. This is History Files, where the past comes roaring back to life. Today, we're tracing the wild, winding path of the bow in Roman warfare, from its shaky start on the margins of the battlefield to its explosive rise as a game-changer in the empire's twilight. Who were these shadowy archers? What bows did they wield? How did they turn the tide of battles? And why does the myth of the archerless Roman army persist even today? Let's charge into the fray. To understand why the bow played such a backseat role in Rome's early days, we need to step back into the fog-shrouded origins of the Eternal City. Picture the 8th century BC, the semi-legendary Kingdom of Rome, a cluster of mud-brick huts on the Tiber River, surrounded by hill tribes and the sprawling Etruscan civilization to the north. The Etruscans, those enigmatic masters of engineering and ritual, were no strangers to the bow. Archaeological digs in Etruscan tombs have turned up bronze arrowheads and hunting scenes etched on sarcophagi, showing archers drawing elegant recurved bows against boars and deer. These weren't just sportsmen, they were warriors, using archery in sieges and ambushes against Greek colonies in southern Italy. And since Rome's kings, like the legendary Tarquin the Proud, were heavily influenced by Etruscan ways, it's no stretch to imagine young Roman boys learning to knock an arrow alongside their spear drills. Fast forward to the early Republic, around the 6th to 4th centuries BC, and the evidence gets even thinner, like whispers in the wind. Roman historians like Livy and Dionysius of Halicarnassus paint pictures of battles against neighboring Latins and Samnites, fierce hill folk who favored close-quarters brawls with swords and shields. The Roman army at this time was a citizen militia, hoplite-style, inspired by Greek models from southern Italy's colonies. Picture phalanxes of spearmen in bronze helmets and greaves, thrusting long sarissas into the enemy line, their world a crush of sweat, screams, and splintering wood. Archery? It's barely a footnote. Sure, the gods Apollo and Diana were bow-wielding deities in Roman mythology, Apollo slaying the python with golden arrows, Diana hunting with silver-tipped shafts, but that's more poetry than policy. In the heat of battle, Romans glorified the man-to-man clash, the heroic duel where valor was proven up close, not from a cowardly distance. This cultural bias ran deep, like a vein of iron in Roman steel. Hand-to-hand combat wasn't just effective, it was honorable, a test of Roman grit and discipline. Flinging missiles from afar? That smacked of trickery, the kind of thing barbarians or Persians did. The legion's core, the hastati, principes, and triarii, were built for the push and shove, evolving from Greek hoplites to the manipular system by the 3rd century BC. Light troops, the velites, scampered ahead with javelins and slings, harassing foes before melting back into the ranks. Slings from the Balearic Islands, those deadly lead bullets that could crack a helmet at 400 yards, were a favorite, but bows? Rare as hen's teeth. Simple geography and demography. Italy's rolling hills and city-states favored infantry melees, not the open plains where horse archers thrived. And among Rome's Italian allies, bow skills were scarce. Most were spearmen or javelin chuckers from the Apennines. When range was needed, Rome outsourced like a pro. Auxiliaries, foreign hires paid in silver denarii and the promise of citizenship after 25 years, filled the gap. In the Samnite Wars, 343 to 290 BC, Roman armies might have borrowed Etruscan or Umbrian archers for scouting, but it's all hearsay from later writers. By the Punic Wars against Carthage in the 3rd century BC, Hannibal's Numidian horse archers were a nightmare, peppering Roman lines with arrows from horseback. Scipio Africanus, the genius who crushed Hannibal at Zama in 202 BC, countered with his own Balearic slingers and Cretan bowmen, mercenaries famed for their deadly accuracy. These Cretans, hailing from the rugged island of Minos and Zeus, were the rock stars of ancient archery, their composite bows outranging anything Roman made. Scipio positioned them on the flanks, their arrows arcing like vengeful hornets to disrupt Hannibal's cavalry charges. It worked. Zama was Rome's triumph, but it planted a seed. Bows had power, if you knew how to use them. As the Republic ballooned into a Mediterranean superpower, archery's role grew like a vine on a crumbling wall. The 2nd century BC saw Rome tangling with Hellenistic kingdoms, Seleucids, Ptolemies, who fielded phalanxes backed by massed archers. At Magnesia in 190 BC, Antiochus III's 10,000 bowmen nearly broke the Roman line before consul Lucius Scipio's Cretan hires turned the tide, their volleys shattering the Seleucid center. Marius's reforms in 107 BC sealed the deal. The old velites vanished, replaced by professional legions, but light support? Straight to the mercenaries. Numidians with javelins, Cretans with bows, Rome's army became a patchwork of talent, held together by discipline and denarii. Enter Julius Caesar, the master showman of the late Republic. In his Gallic Wars, 58 to 50 BC, Caesar faced Celtic tribes who pelted his legions from forests, but he flipped the script in Gaul and beyond. Against the Veneti in 56 BC, his Cretan archers screened advances, their arrows felling enemy ships' crews from afar. In the civil war against Pompey, Pharsalus in 48 BC was a bowman's ballet. Pompey's eastern levies loosed thousands of shafts, but Caesar's disciplined cohorts absorbed it, pilum volleys shattering the barrage. Pompey had 10,000 archers, Caesar, fewer, but better placed. It was a lesson, numbers mattered, but tactics won. Yet even Caesar kept archers auxiliary. His legions remained sword and shield purists, the bow a tool for the lesser troops. The disaster at Carrhae in 53 BC crystallized the bow's terror. Marcus Licinius Crassus, Rome's richest man and a triumvir, marched 40,000 into Parthian sands, dreaming of glory. The Parthians, under Surina, had 10,000 horse archers, masters of the composite bow, layered horn and sinew for 300-yard shots. They danced circles around Crassus's heavy infantry, arrows whistling like vengeful spirits, piercing mail and morale. Romans formed testudo turtles, shields overlapping like a porcupine, but the Parthians feigned retreat, luring them into the open, then wheeled for fresh volleys. 20,000 Romans died, Crassus's head paraded on a pike. It was a bloodbath that echoed through Rome. Auxiliaries weren't enough, adaptation was survival. Post-Carrhae, legions in the east swelled with Syrian and Palestinian bowmen, their recurved weapons a direct ripoff of Parthian tech. Augustus's empire in 27 BC formalized the shift. The auxilia, non-citizen pros, became a standing force, and Sagittarii, archer cohorts, proliferated. By the 1st century AD, Trajan's Dacian Wars, 101 to 106 AD, showcased them on his column in Rome, Syrian foot archers in scale armor and conical helmets, loosing arrows over legionary heads, their long-sleeved tunics marking them as Eastern exotics. Horse archers from Thrace and Anatolia flanked the legions, their bows thumping like war drums. Trajan used them to pin Dacian falx wielders, those scythe-bladed maniacs, buying time for the infantry grind. Archaeology backs it. Bone laths from composite bows litter sites from Hadrian's Wall to the Euphrates, even in rainy Britain where Romans oiled them like prized swords. Arrowheads tell tales too. Broadheads for unarmored barbarians, ripping flesh like hooks, bodkin points for piercing mail, needle thin to punch through Sassanid cataphracts. Romans weren't amateurs. They tailored ammo for the foe, a far cry from the no-bow myth. In sieges, archers shone. Jerusalem 70 AD. Titus's men stormed the temple, archers holding streets, their volleys suppressing zealot rebels while rams battered gates. Josephus, the eyewitness, describes arrows, like hail, clearing ramparts, a tactic Vespasian honed in Britain. Yet status lingered. Sagittarii were auxiliaries, not citizen elites. Legionaries sneered at the coward's weapon, their ethos still the gladius thrust. The late empire flipped the script, a desperate reinvention amid barbarian storms. By the 3rd century, crises piled on, Sassanid horse archers in the east, Gothic hordes in the north. Emperors like Gallienus and Diocletian rebuilt armies, more mobile, more missile-heavy. The comitatenses' field forces swelled with equites sagittarii, mounted bowmen in four-horn saddles for steady shots on the gallop. Hunnic influence was huge. Attila's 5th-century hordes were arrow storms on hooves, forcing Rome to recruit them. The Notitia Dignitatum, a 5th-century roster, lists 50-plus Sagittarii units, mostly Eastern, Syrian, Palestinian, or Federati, Gothic, Alan. Procopius, the 6th-century Byzantine chronicler, raves about Justinian's cataphracts loosing Hunnic bows while charging, a fusion of Roman steel and steppe fury. Tactics evolved too. Early empire archers softened lines, volleys over heads, breaking phalanxes before the clash. Late empire? Integrated firepower, horse archers screened flanks, feinting to draw enemies into infantry traps. At Adrianople 378 AD, Goths routed Valens's legions with arrow barrages, but Theodosius flipped it at Frigidus 394, his eastern archers outshooting the rebels. Sieges got deadlier, archers atop ballista towers, their arrows complementing stone shot. Tech advanced, Hunnic asymmetric bows, longer upper limbs for horseback draw, spread via federati. Even in rainy Britain, Vindolanda tablets mention bow cases to fend off damp. So why the enduring myth of the archerless Roman army? Blame the Republic's glory days. Caesar's commentaries glorify the sword, not the bow. Trajan's column shows auxiliaries as footnotes. Hollywood piles on, gladiators' legions charge sans arrows, a dramatic shortcut. But dig deeper, and the bow's there, marginal at first, vital later. Rome's genius wasn't ignoring the bow, it was wielding it when it counted, adapting from pilum purists to arrow-slinging survivors. The legions that toppled Carthage and conquered Gaul needed no bows. Those holding the line against Huns couldn't live without them. In the end, the Roman story with the bow is a masterclass in evolution. Start with pride in the blade, end with the arrow as ally. It's not that Romans didn't use archers. They used them smarter, later, and when the world demanded it. That adaptability? It's why Rome lasted 1,000 years. Thanks for joining History Files on this arrow-filled adventure. If the bow's hidden role blew your mind, smash that like button and subscribe for more ancient warfare deep dives. Drop a comment. Would you rather be a legionary swordsman or a Sagittarii archer? Hit the bell, share with a history nerd, and I'll see you in the next battle.